Hello, everyone. My name is Ryan, and I am a Bible nerd. Welcome back to my little series here on Jordan Peterson in the Jubilee video known as Surrounded, where he's surrounded by 20 atheists. He makes a claim, then they have a chance to be able to kind of run up to the chair and be able to have a chance to dispute that claim. So we're working through this video. I'm going to do a couple parts here. I just want to break this up into a couple different videos for my channel. So I'd love an interaction with you. Like, subscribe, click. I'm all that fun stuff. I'd love to have interaction with you. So let's watch this next part. The original claim, and what we're kind of working through here, is atheists don't understand what they're rejecting. This idea of God, they don't know what they're actually rejecting. So here's kind of the second person that's coming up to try to refute that. And I think there's some really interesting stuff in this interaction. So let's watch this interaction with this gentleman here on this Jubilee channel on their series called Surrounded.
Hey, how's it going? Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you,
David.
David, good to see you.
Tell me everything that you know about the Polynesian deity Lono, L-O-N-O.
I don't know anything about the Polynesian deity Lono.
So you're rejecting something without knowledge of what you're rejecting.
I'm not rejecting it.
Do
No
you
more
be-
than I'm
do
rejecting
you believe in
anything
Lono?
that I don't know anything
Do you
about.
believe in Lono?
I
Do you
fail to
believe
see
that
the
he is a
relevance of
deity
that.
that exists in the world, exists in the universe, that exists in the existence of everything? Do you believe that Lono
I'll
is
answer
a
that
being?
question once you answer my question, which is, do I reject everything that I'm ignorant of? Because that's your presupposition that undergirds your argument, and unless you can prove that that's valid, then there's no point.
My question is quite simple.
Yeah, but that doesn't
Do
mean
you
it's
believe-
formulated accurately.
Do you believe that Lono exists? Yes or no?
I love that response. Just because it's an easy question doesn't mean it's formulated correctly. And you can see there is a assumption here. Okay, he doesn't know anything about Lono. I don't know anything about Lono. In fact, I'd probably say I can go to the street and 1,000 people don't know who this deity is that he's mentioning. So that doesn't mean it's a rejection of that thing necessarily. And that's where Jordan Peterson's like, well, just because I don't know anything about it doesn't mean it's a rejection or an acceptance. I don't know anything about it. I don't know if you're making it up. How do I know that you're just not coming up with LOLO or whatever it is? How do I know that you're not making that up as well? So then to say, okay, because the lack of knowledge is a rejection, I think that's what Jordan Peterson asks a follow-up question, which is brilliant. Says, okay, am I rejecting anything I don't have knowledge on? Is that a rejection because I don't know anything about it? So would the opposite be true? If I accept it, do I know everything about that thing? Well, of course not. I wouldn't be on the other end of the spectrum either. Just because you know of something doesn't mean you have the full knowledge of that thing either. So I think it's a really interesting question. But for me as a Christian, how I would answer this question is yes, I can reject deities I may not know fully about because I know they're going to fall short of the Bible, the God that is portrayed in the Bible, because we believe it's from beginning of time, space, and matter. That's where God started. So anything that's after that, that's created by this God or a sun God or anything like that, is after the events of the initial God that created all of this stuff. And I would bet to say that most deities that I research have origin stories, have things that were birthed out of something that was already pre-existent, where the God that we believe in Christianity is behind even that. That's further back than the rock that God came from, or that these two giant gods fought each other, one of them lost, and that's what this earth is a dead god, or a god that lost a battle and now we're just living on its carcass. You know what I mean? I mean, so for me, I can easily do it because I know that every god's going to fall short of it. But I don't know all of them, and I don't have to know all of them necessarily. And that's where, so would the reverse be true as well? Atheist, have you studied every single god out there? You would also say, no, I don't have to because I can just dismiss them all. Well, I can dismiss them all too because I know they're going to fall short of the God of Christianity by leaps and bounds, because either origin story or reliability or where the story comes from or where it was written down, how it was created. There's so many things I can poke holes in it because of my theology and my truth rooted in the Bible and the God that created the Bible, the God that created morality, the God that created time, space, and matter itself is the God that we worship, not one that was introduced after the universe was created and somehow there was some sort of event, a birth, a death, a something that God came out of, a bursting of a star. I mean, all of these things that a lot of gods fall short on. A lot of lowercase gods out there like crazy, like this one in the Polynesian Islands. Now, I would say this as well. So if the Polynesian island god had missionaries, let's just use that term, and they went around trying to tell the story that, hey, everybody's worshiping the wrong God, or we know about the true God, the true living God, and they start sending missionaries out there, how many people would convert to that religion? I would think a lot less. Now, if Christians went to that island and started professing the truths of Christianity, there would be converts to Christianity there. There has been around the entire world because of the truth that is rooted in those converts, because the story is validated through creation, through our experience, through reason, through so many other things than just random deities that have just incredible legendary type stories associated with them. But I do like this argument that Jordan's basically trying to say is just because I don't know something about it doesn't mean it's an outright rejection of that thing. I would take it a step further and say, yes, I can reject this particular deity and all other ones by the same idea that I know which one is the true one, and all the other ones are going to fall short. They're going to fall short of that. They didn't create reason, math, time, all that, because a lot of these deities will have some sort of thing they're a deity or god over. Just the wind, but that doesn't make them the sun god as well. They can control the seas, but they don't control reason. They can control fire, frogs, they're the god of this or that or this. It's amazing how often they're kind of limited within their thing. That's why there's a pantheon of them to be able to explain all the things. We as Christians are the step back to the creator God, living true God of time, space, and matters who we're serving. And that entity, that divine being, is what stepped into creation through Jesus and saved the creation. That is what makes us even one step further than just a theist that just believes there is a God, an intelligent mind behind all this stuff. That's where Christians take the one step further and say Jesus is that God. That's where the difference is there. But as far as just atheist and theist, that's why there can be those rejections of just some deity on an island somewhere. It can be a rejection of it. But I can see what Jordan's trying to say, and I can totally agree. I don't know everything about all the science, so that doesn't mean I just reject it. I just don't know anything enough, and I can have a no opinion about something. There's nothing wrong with just saying I don't know enough to reject or accept. I don't even know if what you're telling me is true. I have to assume that this God does exist in some book or some culture or some stone tablet somewhere. I mean, whatever it might be, but that's not what we worship. That's a major difference.
I'm not going to answer that question for the reasons I just described. You already insisted that if I reject something, that if I'm ignorant of something, I reject it. Do you think that everyone in the world has to know everything simultaneously for that to be valid and true?
I think in order for your
Answer that
argument
question.
to be true, in order for it to be true that we atheists don't understand what we're rejecting, then you need to also apply that to yourself and to Christians and to Muslims and to any other person on this earth, where if you don't understand what you're rejecting the belief in, then you can't reject the belief in it. That's the implication of your claim.
I didn't say that I rejected the belief in Lona. I said I didn't know who Lono was. I didn't say anything about rejecting.
That's because I've asked you several times and you haven't, but let me get to my even greater point. Mm-hmm. You're saying atheists don't understand what religion is or what God is in order to be able to reject it fully or completely. We have someone over here who studied it in their own way. I've studied religion. I have a degree in religious studies, specialty in Christianity and Mediterranean traditions. And further than that, beyond me, Pew Research studies suggest that atheists and agnostics actually know more about religion and about religious stories, the foundational principles, than believers.
That's because they're more religious than they think they are.
I think that's a great answer there, that they are. There's so many times in our society that certain words get captured by science or pop culture or religion, and sometimes even the word religion itself is obviously a religious word. So when you kind of throw it at atheists, sometimes they're like, "Oh man, no, I'm not religious at all." And it's like, well, then you're not really understanding what the word religion really does mean. It's that, but what I think is really interesting here is how he says that agnostics and atheists know more about religion than maybe even religious people. And I would have to push back on that. I think atheists do because they've taken it a step further than agnostics. Because I think there's agnosticism kind of within religion and outside of religion. It's just people just don't care enough to really dig any deeper past a talking point. So maybe they got faith that's miles wide but not very deep. because they haven't really thought. They don't have to. They don't debate. They don't have to sit there and wrestle with other people that are outside of their little tribe, their little church, that type of stuff. They don't have to. They don't want to. That's not what they're in it for. And I can see that on both sides of agnosticism and just with believers, that there's going to be people that just dig naturally a little deeper. So I think when you get the label of atheist or theist, you have gone past just a common, everyday kind of person on any particular. So there's agnostic. I have so many things I'm agnostic about, like I don't know, like a sports team or something like that, or a sporting event, or I'm completely neutral with it. But I think religion and these types of things is something I do find more pleasure in researching and articulating and trying to fight through this type of stuff. So I have to push back on it, but I think Jordan nails it. People that are of this mindset on either end of the spectrum, atheist or theist, are wrestling with these things, wrestling with the arguments, wrestling with how they would articulate it or reject or accept any particular claim. I think theists are a little bit more accepting of trying to reason it out and look it over, where I think atheists are just hard-nosed a little bit more. They just run into brick walls a lot more often and just dismiss things so much before they get to certain things. Because, okay, as soon as it's labeled as religion, I just dismiss all of it because it's all in that box, and I just dismiss the whole thing. And maybe we do on the theistic side as well, but I feel like the ones I've interacted with more are more open to try to experiment with what they believe, kind of wrestle with these things. That's the very idea of what we're doing as believers, is wrestling with what the Bible means and how we're supposed to interpret it and the different commentaries on it. I think we're digging into it a lot more, where as soon as it becomes a religious thing on the atheistic side, they just reject it flat out. And I think that's really at the root of Jordan Peterson's question or claim here, is that atheists run into stoppers way sooner. As soon as it's labeled as faith or supernatural or whatever it might be, boom, hard stop, no more, done, unscientific, I'm out. That kind of thing. And you're stupid for thinking that. You know what I mean? That type of thing. You believe in a sky daddy, you believe in miracles, you believe in stuff that can't be seen, proven, all this kind of stuff. So just dismissing it. You guys are stupid. You're idiots. I'm going to go back to my science textbooks. So I think that's part of this claim here, and what I think he's trying to flush out with it to try to get him past it. And you can see, even with the first couple of interactions here, that they will get hung up on something, and that's just kind of what they hit a wall, and they just won't go through it any further. And I think that this was a really interaction that just because you don't know something about it to make even kind of any kind of claim about it isn't a rejection of that thing or an acceptance of that thing. Just the same as if you have full knowledge of it doesn't mean you're in a full acceptance of it, because you can have full knowledge and still reject it. You have no knowledge and still accept it. But I think Jordan was pretty smart here to say, I don't know anything about this deity. Why would I say it exists or didn't exist? That's a very smart answer from a smart guy. From a Christian, I can take it a step further and say I can say that those other deities don't exist because of who I know is in the Bible, is the one that is predates, steps back, further back, more foundational, deeper, deeper, deeper. Otherwise, it's not God in the first place. That's where Jordan's trying to get to. Whatever atheists have labeled as God is up here. What Christians do is we're down further. We're more fundamental, or the highest possible thing that can be conceived. That's where we're getting. And I think atheists stopped somewhere short of that. And that's what Jordan Peterson's trying to say with this first claim. So I hope you like this video. I hope you watch the rest of it. Let me know what you think, what I'm getting right, what I'm getting wrong. Love to have the wrestle with you on these concepts. But I thought this was a pretty interesting interaction with this particular individual. And just like the show, like the channel, just like Jubilee, what they've done with the Surrounded. And just thought it'd be fun to start making some comment videos about it. So I'm going to do a few more parts. There's a few other sections on this, but I don't want to make it just a huge, long video. So I thought I'd just kind of break it up into parts. But I love your comments. Love your thoughts. Let me know what you think. And we'll take a look at a couple other parts here, a couple other series, and just see what else we can do. If there's other videos you want me to comment on or review, or want to have me on your podcast or your show, I'd love to talk to you about that. So you can reach out there as well. But I hope you have a wonderful day, and God bless.